Hey, kids, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology, and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. It is Monday, February 20th, and we are in the middle of a 1, 2, 3 punch sort of couple of days, really starting with this past weekend. So let us catch up. So on Saturday, the sun changed signs, and we are now officially in the Pisces mansion. So for the next 4 weeks, our conscious awareness is focused on all of the elements that were invented by Pisces. The unconscious is first and foremost what is the valuable and powerful offering of Pisces archetype to the 12 signs of the zodiac is Pisces invented that there is this unconscious experience. And in my world, when I use that word unconscious, which is largely thought of as a word associated with psychology and the psychological notion of the unconscious. In archetypal thinking and zodiacal archetypal thinking, the unconscious simply means the mystery, the place where we connect with the invisible and the behind the scenes energy that supports form. So, Pisces and Pisces delivery from the unconscious of gifts is not just our understanding of deep psychological motivations that we can't touch or see on a regular basis, but we can respond to. The Piscean unconscious also includes imagination, creativity, the guidance that inspires us from, hidden places, what we tap into through prayer and meditation and a spiritual practice. And so because Pisces is the archetype that connects to all of this collective, unification energy, it's also the sign where love, forgiveness, and compassion lead the way. And why that is because Pisces is the only sign of the zodiac where there is no sense of separateness. We are all one when it comes to the Pisces archetypal message. And so when the sun moves into this mansion, we must be in, conscious awareness of this behind the scenes, connected to all there is, divinely driven sensibility through which all form eventually comes. And so we're wrapping up the astrological year by going into this still below the surface, behind the scenes Piscean energy, which then changes very dramatically when we hit the astrological new year at Aries 1 month from now. So, as of Saturday, we are consciously aligned with unity, oneness, compassion, forgiveness. And yesterday, punch number 2, new moon in Pisces. As soon as the sun crossed over into Pisces on Saturday, the moon followed suit yesterday. And we are still very much in that new moon because the moon is still in Pisces today on Monday, and the new moon is just behind us by a couple of hours. So we're still in that intention-setting consciousness of what do we want to create for ourselves in the direction of feeling connected to all, deeply committed to coming to forgiveness and through the principle of compassion, allowing us to let go of things that feel like they're not going the way that we would prefer, and we dive into the sort of God consciousness and recreate again. We recreate anew. And so a new moon in Pisces allows us to come back to our sense of divine connection. Who are we at the very, very center of our being, and set intentions from that place where the connection to the divine flow is utter because there's no disconnect, right? That's the beauty of the Pisces new moon. We're not even making a connection with the divine to set these intentions. We're already there. So deepening and increasing this Pisces new moon experience of connecting us to divine love and universal compassion is the coming together of Venus, the planet of love, and Neptune, the planet of higher love, in the sign of Pisces. That conjunction peaked late last week, and as we move through yesterday's new moon, Venus was at the last degree of Pisces, that 30th degree that we call the anaretic degree, where the planet in question is charged with embodying the entire sensibility of the archetype that it's in as it prepares to leave. So during yesterday's new moon, Venus was at the most loving and the most forgiving and the most sort of oneness with all points in all of the zodiac, the very last degree of Pisces. And then today, Monday the 20th, is that 1, 2, 3 punch, which is that Venus shoots into Aries, crosses that birth canal, says, here I am in the world of form, ready to love in a greater way because of all that I've been through. And here we are. I'm on fire. Let's get this show on the road.
So, like, what I'm hoping for when I hear you say that is just resolving inner tenderness. Would you say that my hope is a projection or a reality of all of this seemingly love and forgiveness? Like, it feels very juicy and tender what you're saying.
Yes. Yes. Well, in fact, I would say your language reflects it in a very beautiful way. And I think you're articulating the highest aspirational possibility of each of us as individuals coming to a greater ability to move from love and forgiveness and compassion from the start, right? So that we're living there more fully. And what's interesting about asking that question, though, is that it makes it interesting to me that I had actually planned to talk today about the new moon in Pisces that had Venus and Neptune conjunct the last time they came together, which was in March of 2021, because I think this tells an interesting story. So Venus and Neptune come together about every 2 years by conjunction. And when they do, we get a powerful upgrade of love in our system because Venus is love at the personal level and Neptune is divine love. So every 2 years, our love button gets realigned with the God love button, and we get bigger in our capacity to move forward with tenderness, compassion, sensitivity, because we feel at one with all, and that we feel that sense of love is love, is love, is love, is love. So the fact that 2 years ago, in the new moon on March 13th, also had Venus and Neptune together is interesting that here we are essentially 2 years later, and we do it again. That is, we have a new moon in Pisces with Venus in her exaltation in Pisces, conjunct Neptune in his rulership in Pisces. Only everything has changed since the spring of 2021.
Yes.
Now, partly why I'm bringing this up is
I just had to think about that.
Okay, so you get that too. Well, and I did too, right? When I looked at this connection, I thought, well, let me explore this, regularity of Venus and Neptune. I was shocked because at the new moon in Pisces in March of 2021, I was planning on moving later that year, but I had a very specific idea of how I thought that was going to play out. And through some happenstancey circumstances, I found myself in a kind of a psychic reading. Kind of. It was more casual than I didn't at any rate. The storyline is not as important as the information that was offered to me at that new moon changed how I was going to approach the moving thing. And then I thought, Jesus, am I really going to change big plans because someone gave me a little psychic guidance? But I did. And it led me to the house that I live in now, which is the most beautiful home I've ever lived in terms of a match between my inner capacity to love and then my house's reflection of greater love and ability to love. I was shocked when I recognized that the last time Venus and Neptune came together, I was really clearly able to see what was starting up with that new moon in Pisces in that spring that can be used, if nothing else, as a touchstone. Just as I said earlier, and you immediately responded with, everything has changed. What a great moment to just look back to a place where, through the lens of astrology, we actually have a kind of hearkening back to 2 years ago. I've been obsessed with Venus's movement since then, especially with and if you've been following me, you guys know this, that with Venus's retrograded Capricorn, I just got captivated with how much transformation in the heart is being made available to us through the lens of astrology at a time when the world is going absolutely mad and shows no slowing down of that. I'm even going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this episode of the podcast of the craziness to come. So what I'm left with is, well, thank you, universe. I get that you're going to be delivering us some wild amounts of chaos, change, transformation, and violence over the next decade or so. But at least you're providing the crucible through which we can all become more ready to meet the world on its own terms, because we're coming to it with more love, forgiveness, compassion, and a sense that we are all one with all. Big change then with the emotional body today, with the planet that rules the emotional body and love and intimacy and finances. Venus moving into Aries today, right? So that changes the dynamic of how we experience our feelings. And so that puts our emotional bodies a little bit on fire with Venus in the fiery, action-oriented sign of Aries. So you can expect us to be a little bit more, all of us to be a little bit more reactive emotionally in a fired up kind of way. This is a sign that is known as Venus's detriment. It's just a demarcation in astrology that's set up when a planet is in a sign that's opposite that planet's ruling sign. So one of Venus's ruling signs is Libra, which is all about balance and the reflection and coming into harmony. And its opposite sign is Mars's sign of Aries, where there is no balance, there is no harmony. It's my way or the highway. It's masculine, 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 right? So Venus is not happy here. I think it's more valuable to look at detriment in terms of the archetypal reasoning for it. And then that makes sense. If the planet of love is in the sign of war, then love is harder to access because we're a little bit more interested in one side of the equation only and then burning the house down when we don't find the love that we desire. So for the next 3.5 weeks, emotions will be a little bit more volatile and reactive. Love language will be about action and movement. And financial matters could actually benefit a little bit with the planet that rules money in a sign that rules action. It usually takes a day or two for us to get used to the sensation of a personal planet changing sign. So if you're hearing this podcast on Sunday after midnight or early on Monday, it might not be till about Wednesday or so before we really start to feel us fired up in a new way. But trust me, for the next 3.5 weeks, emotions are going to be a little bit more activatable.
As a deeply emotional person, I'm not excited for that. It's like, already feeling them, but I don't need any help.
I get it. And it's actually a good point to be made that as someone who's deeply emotional, Zoe, that might be driven by having a lot of water in your chart. And it might actually happen that for some more sensitive and emotional people might find a little balance when the planet that rules the emotional body moves into Aries. I would take that on. You emotionally sensitive, vulnerable people, take it on as a science experiment.
Okay.
Just take note over the next couple of weeks. Does it feel a little bit easier when the planet that rules your emotions is in a fire sign? How about that? So there's one triple transit this year between two planets in the social or outer pantheon. It's actually Saturn, the social planet of Saturn, in a semi-square with the sort of trans-social outer planet Chiron. It's interesting where Chiron sits because he's halfway in between, not really halfway, but he sits in between the social planets of Saturn and Jupiter and the outer planets of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So if those outer planets represent our highest divine connection, and Saturn and Jupiter as social planets represent how we're making life happen on the Earth herself, socially, meaning collectively and outside of the house, if you will, then Chiron's placement between the social and the outer planets sort of tells us a story that as we heal our wounds and clear out the stuff from below the surface of our consciousness in the way that Chiron asks us to, we actually are then able to work with our higher dimensional vibration because of said healings. So Saturn and Chiron in a semi-square is about the responsibilities that we have, Saturn, to heal the wounds that are still there, Chiron. But because this is a mild angle of a semi-square, a 45-degree angle, we're not in crises about healing and lessons in this transit. We're more like being reminded that we have things to attend to that might bring frustration or delays to our progress. So we want to shoot off into the future, creating madly with everybody direct and, Jupiter and Aries, and like now we can go, go, go. Yes, that is accurate. We're in faster moving energy now than we were, say, yesterday. But we've got this little pace setter happening Wednesday of this week, in the middle of August, and at the end of November. So if you are seeing some procrastination in your way that you wish you weren't seeing right now, that might be divine timing in action. Sometimes our sense of procrastination is really just that the rhythm isn't going in the flowing way, and we see that as our fault, right? So if you are a procrastinator and are struggling with that, you might want to look at some self-forgiveness, because sometimes the things that slow us down, and especially if the things that slow us down are in the form of wounds you have to tend to or breakdowns in flow that turn out to be lessons about how you perceive your life, this little transit is designed to help us not move so fast that we aren't also attending to the demands of our individual humanity. I do think it's interesting that this particular iteration of a kind of mild responsibility demand to keep paying attention to personal wounds as you go happens with Saturn in Aquarius. And by the time this triple transit hits for the second time in August, Saturn will have changed signs, which means that how and why and what form those lessons take for us all is going to change dramatically in March when the planet that brings those lessons moves out of Aquarius, one of his ruling signs from classical astrology, and into the forgiveness, compassion, and loving sign of Pisces. So of the three of these semi-squares, this one has the promise of probably being the most intense because Saturn is, well placed in a sign he somewhat rules over, and he's creeping into the final degree of Aquarius, which I'm about to talk all about. But understand that in the middle of this week, there's a transit that might be slowing your roll. And I invite you to look at how that might be playing out for you and see if you can't find the rightness of that. So that you're not judging things that slow you down or cause you to have to look within for a little bit, because those things are as important as the outward expansions that this year also promises. One of the things that is going on right now is Pluto, the planet of deep change and transformation at the greatest level that we can possibly work with, is at the final mastery degree of Capricorn, and Saturn has just reached the final mastery degree of Aquarius. So you've got both the planet of death and the planet of taxes. That's how I like to refer to Pluto and Saturn, because remember, I was talking about that in 2021 when they came together in Capricorn. It was like 2020 was going to be the year of death and taxes, unavoidable. We got through that.
We did.
And now we've got the death planet at the precipice of leaving Cap and entering Aquarius, and the planet of taxes, the teacher, at the last sort of moment of Aquarius, getting ready to leave and enter Pisces. So much of everything that I'm going to talk about with regard to astrology this year is going to be about these two planets changing signs. Saturn's going to do this next month just once, and then he's in Pisces for the next 2.5 years. Pluto is going to crisscross back between the two signs over this year and next year, which is exactly what he did in 2007 and 8, leaving Sagittarius and entering Capricorn. And during those years, great changes happened on the planet that were difficult. The same thing's going to happen this year and next year. There are going to be challenges on the planet that are more of an Aquarian nature than a Capricornian nature. Aquarius rules the internet, kids, and information and connectivity. And so we're about to see, starting next month, a kind of 2, 3, 4-year breakdown of things on the planet in a new way, because Pluto is moving into a new sign next month. And the fact that the social planet of Saturn is moving into a new sign at the same time means that we are going to be facing both meta breakdowns and changes as well as social breakdowns and changes starting next month and for the next 2 to 4 years. One of the reasons why I'm mentioning this now, long before I'll be talking about it in depth many, many times in the year to come, is that there is something to be said about these next 3 to 4 weeks as Saturn is hovering at the mastery degree of a sign he's about to leave. Saturn is said to deliver a parting gift every time he sort of finishes a cycle. And so for the last 2.5 years, we've been working on our karmic lessons through the lens of waking up to higher awareness, because that's an Aquarius thing, looking to see where we serve the community, and making sure that if we're not ready to serve, we learn the lessons so that we can. That's been a part of Saturn in Aquarius for the last 2 years. And so just right there, waking up to a higher consciousness and understanding how you personally are designed to serve the community. Take a look at the last 2.5 years. Think about the lessons you have been learning and understand on a certain level, kind of subtle but present nonetheless, we're in a kind of final exam, masterclass, last dive into the Saturn and Aquarius consciousness starting this week until he leaves this sign for 30 years next month. I will, of course, be talking about this a lot in the podcast, in my daily subscription. If you are a subscriber, it's not a bad idea for the year to come. If you want more support, go to michaellennox.com and look into my daily Astro Alert, which is a daily detailed email about the transits that are hitting us each day. And certainly at the Global Healing Meditation, the first Thursday in March, I will be talking about this a lot because March is the first month that the big shifts begin. It's going to be a crazy couple of years, kids, but I think we got this. Have at it.
All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week we have a call-in dreamer from Boulder, California, and we have Nancy calling in. Hey Nancy, what you dreaming?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here, as always. I am dreaming of a Thai tablet of knowing, is what I'm calling this.
That's your title?
Yes,
Thai.
I title all dreams.
I love that, by the way. By the way, kids, that's a wonderful way of doing dream work by, contextualizing the dream with the title. But say it to me again, because I didn't quite hear it.
The Thai tablet of knowing.
The Thai tablet of knowing. Okay.
So I was walking down the main street in Santa Cruz with a group of friends. I am walking ahead of them, kind of on my own mission, and intensely looking for something or like a building to go into. And this is like a theme that comes up recurringly in my dream. I walk into a class that's taking part in like temple space where students are sitting in large geodes. I sit on a vacant stone and pull out my mallet to see if I can make the geodes sing like my singing bowls. The students are all wearing red robes and they are working on canvas with sticks and paintbrushes. They wonder why I'm there late. One woman turns to me and says, "We don't usually have someone so experienced in this class." I look down and see that I have the same supplies to work with. We are meant to be drawing testicles and ovaries inside a box on one side of the canvas. The rest of the canvas is filled with like writing and symbols. They're like ancient, and I think it's in Thai, and I don't understand what it says. The instructor comes up to me. This is a Thai man wearing ceremonial garb. I think I'm going to be in trouble for joining the class late. So I'm like kind of nervous because I wasn't invited. He takes me into a room off the main area, and this room is full of books and sashes and sound tools. I am instantly going to offer to pay him for the class. Then I sense he doesn't want money in this sacred place. He says I'm not prepared for the class. He cleanses me with smoke and dresses me in the red robe like all the other students have on, and finally places a rainbow stole around my neck. None of the other students have this stole on. I go back to the classroom where everyone is now doing a dance around the perimeter of the room, alternating male and female. They're clapping their hands over their heads, and I do not join in because I don't know the dance. The class ends, and we all remove our red robes, but I keep my stole on. And then a different Thai man comes up to me and gives me a survival necklace. It's a whistle, a leather pouch, and a cuneiform tablet. It's about the size of a paperback. On the tablet, it has a Buddha and the same ancient writings that were on my canvas. They're all hanging from mala beads. I accept it and I put it on, feeling like I need to pay for it once I get outside. Once I'm outside, I'm looking at the necklace when my friends April and Nick show up. They tell me the tablet hanging from my beads is a cookie made with LSD and I need to eat it. So I take the tablet off, break it in half, give thanks, and eat it. I only want half because it's becoming night, I don't know where I'm going, and I usually only trip during the day. So I look down at the other half of the tablet or cookie, knowing it's special and I need to keep it safe. April brings over a large cut log. It still has the bark and it's damp and mossy. I place the other half of the tablet on the top of the log as we carry it together across a bridge over rough seas, trying to keep it from sliding off. As it starts to rain, my vision changes and the trip begins. That is.
Please tell me that's
I
the end
know
of
it's
this
a
dream,
lot.
because I could bear, like, it's like, I mean, like, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, well, thank God for such an interesting dream. And the other hand, I'm like ready to fire my producers. Like, honey, now I'm going to do this. I've taken notes, as I always do. It's a great dream. It's a beautiful dream. I love the dream. I'm just a little overwhelmed in trying to take it all in and hold it. So give me a second.
There's just a couple really, this recurring theme is the Asian man always shows up in my dreams, and the me searching for something with all my friends.
Right. Well, and one of the things that struck me, that grabbed me initially, was I am on my own mission. So the dream is telling me, as I perceive you through the dream, I'm getting, okay, you're someone who wants community, you're with a group of friends, but you're ahead of them on your own mission. So the dream is about the mission you're on, right? And so because the dream takes you through sacred ritual and a kind of, am I at this level? Am I not? Do I belong? Am I late? You get blessed in this dream in a very big way, with some distinctions that we'll talk about and unpack. But it's definitely a dream of receiving a blessing. I'm assuming you get
I mean,
that,
I feel
right?
like
Yes?
that Asian man is my spirit guide in some way that's trying to
Yes.
show me
Yes.
something.
Yes, I think that is absolutely right. So we know that you're in that sacred consciousness because of the place that you land. It's a temple space, so very clear. It's like, I'm on my own mission. It's a self-investigation of a high spiritual, nature, because you find yourself in a temple. I think this is something interesting about that you're in something that's new, these geodes, and you sort of sitting on this stone. You ask yourself, will this stone act like something I'm familiar with? Right? So you pull out a mallet. Will this sound like my crystal? So it's like, here's something new I'm sitting on in a new temple. Do I know what this is? Do I know how to be with this? Well, I have a mallet. I pick out what I do know. Will this vibrate in the way that I'm familiar with? But it's a new setting. It's a new temple. So it's got to have something new for you. But that's what I make of that little moment. You're like, do I know where I am energetically? I love all of this masculine, feminine integration stuff, because it shows up both in this internal process part of the dream, where there's drawing being done and people are calling forth these two powerful symbols, one male, one female, which are really the same. Testicles and ovaries are the same gonad. They just become different by being acted upon, so that out in the three-dimensional world, unity can be expressed as a binary to then create through, right? That's testicles and ovaries. And so it's being handled in an imagery way in the sort of ceremonial part, but then it becomes an alternating dance later with the male and female dancers alternating. But you don't know that dance. So there's got to be something about integrating your masculine and your feminine as a fundamental message of the dream that you don't know yet how to do. We get clear about that when the dance part comes, and you're like, well, I don't know the dream. I mean, I don't know the dance. Then there's this whole sort of portion of the dream context that says, where am I at in terms of my level? Am I like everybody else in the red robes, or am I able to sort of honor that I've come far in my work on self, which I interpret as the rainbow skull? That you're taken to you're in a sacred space, and then you're taken to an even more sacred space. And what's happening is you go in for the deeper private initiation. There's the ego feelings that come up. Will I be rejected? Did I come late? Have I done the preparation? Right? So I'm even seeing the first scenario in the temple, and then the second scenario in the sacred room, a little bit like the sidewalk at the top of the dream. You're with your group of friends. That reminds me of the sacred temple with other practitioners doing ceremony. But you walk ahead because you have your own mission. Then the same thing happens in the second part of the dream. You're in a ritual with population, with other people, with peers. And yet this dream isn't about them. It's about your personal journey. And so you are taken to an even deeper sacred place, which to me is just like you walking ahead of your friends on the sidewalk because you're on your own mission. So now we're in the portion of the dream that counts because you're in the high sacred place. There's lots of wisdom in there, lots of tools. And he sort of gives you the unvarnished sort of true. It's like, you're not prepared, but I can help prepare you. I can cleanse you with smoke, and I can give you the red robe that says you've accomplished so much and are worthy of this robe. And your advanced work allows you to go even further, as represented by this rainbow skull on your neck. So just that you received a sacred object in this second part of this ceremonial aspect of the dream, that's a thing, honey. Like if you woke up right there, it would be a dream about receiving an initiation to a higher level of working with light. Rainbow is about light. Rainbow is about perceiving that light is actually made up of many colors. That's a very sophisticated knowing and knowledge. So love the rainbow skull around your neck. And then we get to the female dance piece. So now you're initiated and you're still acknowledging that there's a piece that you aren't quite integrated with in terms of masculine and feminine. So there must be some more sacred work that needs to be done. And it kind of shows up with April, was it? April
and Nick, but April's a solid
who are those two
presence in my life, a solid female presence in my life.
And is Nick a embodied male? Oh, isn't that interesting that there'd be a man and a woman who show up? Do you know about him?
Yes,
Nick?
I know
Do you know
both of them
him
in real life for a very long time.
Got it. Do they make a nice, I'm not talking about are they paired up in life, but in your dream state, do you see April and Nick as an integrated masculine and feminine image?
I guess the energies seem balanced.
Yeah, you're fuffing though, honey. Maybe Nick's not as powerful as April for you.
I'm closer with her. She's a more solid presence in my life. He's a little more of a I don't know him as deeply.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to reflect that you are connected with your own feminine power solidly, but that your connection to your masculine power is a little less known to you. That's sort of a little layer that this conversation about April and Nick bring me. But they tell you that this gift that you've been given by the Thai shaman has the capacity to radically alter your view in the form of LSD as a symbol. So that if you ingest this medicine, it's funny, in my medicine circles, we refer to LSD as coyote because it's a trickster medicine because you never know what's going to bring. But it's powerful, transformative medicine that does radically alter somebody's perspective of the separateness that we live in, the illusion of separateness that we live in. And you've been given this tremendous gift in this initiation dream that I think one of the things I love the most about it, Nancy, is that it both reflects your current level of expansion and spiritual knowledge and wisdom, but also acknowledges that there's more work to be done. And it tells you that it is about becoming more friendly with your inner masculine energy and then allowing the next level of transformation that is hinted at the end of this dream because you wake up before the transformation occurs. You take the LSD, but there's another process that happens, as we say,
I just thought it was interesting that she was the one that had to help me carry the rest of this over like a bridge with like really rough seas below. And it was like sliding away. And I was like, well, why is the rest of this message or gift or trying to slide off of this piece of earth.
Could it be that what's needed in that moment, in other words, you rely on that which you're very comfortable and familiar with, the feminine principle, to get through a transition? Bridges are about transitions, right, which are scary and vulnerable. And so even what you just said to me implies that you're great at marshaling your feminine, containing, creative, patient power. And that part of what's needed is some
All right.
action. All right. Well, thank you, honey. This was worth the long trek through the dream. Beautiful dream, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing it with us.
And again, thank you for all you do for humanity and for the
Yay.
planet. I very appreciate you sharing all your knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Use Huzo. Thanks for holding space.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.